Hi everyone, it's Russell Lowe speaking, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to add or apply materials to the surfaces of this geometry and how to capture an image. So the first thing we need to do is go Design and let's select the Render workspace, and so this opens up into a different workspace, same object, same point of view that we were in before. So the first thing we'll do, you will notice it's a bit dark, but we also notice it's maybe a bit glossier than it was before. So let's go into the setup, scene settings, and which is this one here, and go into the environment library. We've got sharp highlights as our current environment. Let's go let's try cool light. Let's try that one, and you can see if we move this one around, notice in the highlights it's got a sort of a bluish sort of a tinge, and if we go down to say warm light, you can imagine it's pretty similar, except that in the highlights we've got this sort of yellowish tinge. So all of these environments have different effects in terms of darkness and brightness. You can download HDR environments here, snowfields and that sort of thing. I've downloaded a plaza and a dry lake bed, and in fact you can let's go to the dry lake bed, and then if we go into the settings, instead of the background being a solid color as it is at the moment, I can turn the environment on and we can look at the object in an environment. Go back here, I downloaded a plaza as well, and there's the plaza, there's my object sort of sitting in the plaza. We can then change the lighting around a little bit. Look, the rendering in Fusion 360 isn't great, so we're not going to actually render these things out. We're going to use the capture image function instead. So I'll do a sample of that a little bit later. I'll turn the environment back to a solid color, and I'll turn the ground plane off so we don't get shadows cast in there. What was our environment? The plaza. So that's obviously a little bit sort of bluish from the light from the sky, right? Okay, so let's apply some materials to this thing. That bluish color will affect those the way those materials render. So if we go into the appearance of materials is different than the materials that will be used for simulating how strong this thing is. And if we were to bend it and ask Fusion to tell us how much it weighed, these materials, the way they appear, don't affect those sort of qualities. That's somewhere else. But today and for our purposes, we're just looking at how the material appears on the screen. So it's got a default steel satin, and if we were to say go down here into metal, and you can see a whole range of other metals we could use. Let's try gold. So we've got bodies, apply this to bodies and components, so let's just drag it and drop it onto the whole thing. You can see now it's got this sort of lovely sort of gold effect. We can double click on the material and we can maybe make it greener, like that, and we can make it rougher, so it'll be duller, or we can make it really shiny, and you can see it's actually picking up some of the reflections from the plaza and from the cobblestones and that sort of thing. So if you didn't want that, you'd need to go back into the setup, scene settings, go environment, and change that to say one without a background in it. So the cool light, and now it's just got actually it's showing you sort of grids from the ceiling lights. So it's not completely, maybe photo booth has none, but that's pretty dull, isn't it? Okay, let's go to warm light. There we go, and we can see a little bit of a sort of a shine. Okay, so let's go back. Actually, after all that, I quite like that plaza. So let's stick it back on the plaza. Yeah, that's more interesting anyway. Okay, so those are those settings. Close that. Let's go back to the appearance, and rather than adding to bodies and components, let's change the materials just on certain surfaces. So let's go to say leather and cloth, leather, some glossy leather, put that in there, maybe put it onto that surface there too, and notice that it's quite large. So if we double click on here, we can change the scale. So we'll just double click on the icon of the material, and I can change the scale so that it's more reasonable. That looks a little bit better. And then let's go, maybe, what else could we use? Let's go stone, granite blue pearl, okay, granite black and white, okay, that looks like it needs to scale down a lot. There we go. And now it's looking pretty hideous, gold and leather and granite, but no accounting for taste. Granite black and white. What's this one? I must have used a different granite just then. You'll be able to see that when you're replaying it. Let's try and answer the quiz. Okay, so this is a pretty hideous color combination and material combination, but you know, my job is not to influence you in that way. That's your task, is to sort of apply some different materials and then create some captures. So to capture the image, hit this icon here, capture image, and it's just going to the current window size, which is reasonably sized. You can make it larger or smaller if you like. I've got a transparent background, so I can slap this over the top of a image and I don't need to cut the background out. Go OK. I'll call this textured or materials. Lovely. Save it to my local computer as a PNG. PNGs will save that transparency. Go save. Let's open up that, and let's see, I've done a few other ones. Here it is. So why don't you try experimenting with a range of different materials and see if you can come up with something a little less ostentatious than this, but maybe a little more ostentatious, and then tell us in the comments underneath those images on your blog why you chose to do it the way you did. Okay, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.